Are you holding something in your hands? Imagine holding something in your hands and throwing it up in the air. You know what will happen. The pen, the phone, the apple you're holding will first go up and then come down. If you are nerdy enough, you could even calculate the exact time and speed of these events. But one is sure, and we all know it, what goes up must come down. I think that's great. It's you and gravity working together to create a predictable outcome. I was in the science class. Actually, I was in the special science class of a science school, so really hardcore, no philosophy, psychology. We didn't read or write much, but we had a lot of physics lab sessions. So with that love for physics and formulas in mind, obsessed with predictable outcomes, I went on to study at the Stockholm School of Economics here in Riga. I thought to myself, if economics makes predictions about people, then it's kind of like physics. Just instead of the apples, we have people jumping up and then coming down. So I studied the demand curves, and 3 years later, with my degree in economics and business, I went on to work in marketing. I thought that's fascinating. Instead of predicting the economic outcomes, we could actually influence their behavior. So, really eager to leave my mark, I unfortunately, shortly, found myself puzzled. Why are they not jumping? Or, to put it more precisely, why are they jumping like crazy? Jaanudiena, the regional midsummer holiday where people jump over the bonfires and grill meat and drink beer, it's just around the corner. So imagine now that instead of that apple in your hand, you now have a shop here in Riga, and you have to sell meat. You've done that before during previous years. Could you calculate the time and the speed of these events, the consumption going up and down? You could, if you're really good at what you do, you have the deal with the weatherman, but you could never be nerdy enough to do these calculations in a very predictable manner, in a precise manner. Because you see, what people do with their time and money can really not be very well explained in economics textbooks. I, for one, found it very stressful not knowing how and when they are jumping. I talked to a meat processor about Jaanudiena. You see, these midsummer celebrations are kind of an easy task for food producers, because even if the weather is bad, even if it's pouring rain, people will still eat meat and drink beer. So I talked to a meat processor, and it appears that they can predict the sales of midsummer meat with 85% precision. I thought, not bad at all. But when I dug deeper, I realized that it's not about the precision of the analytics, but what's going on there is that whenever one supermarket chain is ordering less than estimated for the holidays, they sell the rest of the meat with very aggressive price discounts to other channels. So you see, it's not about predicting the sales, but it's about selling as much as you have predicted. So it's about getting rid of the meat that would otherwise expire. So all of these examples about not being able to predict the outcomes in marketing and sales, and actually also in advertising. I've met so many brilliant advertising professionals, but none of them can very well, or actually none of them can at all predict the outcome of the advertising campaigns. And perhaps some people enjoy this uncertainty, but for me, as a young marketing professional, it was rather stressful. So I thought to myself, I need to study more. I have to learn more about human behavior to predict their actions. So I heard of psychology. Fallen victim of a common misperception, I thought I could read people's minds. So I went on to study psychology, actually cognitive science. I thought a master's degree in cognitive and decision sciences would surely get me closer to understanding human behavior. I went to UCL in London, and I did learn a lot. I understood why this very expensive watch could sometimes appear rather cheap. Actually, a real bargain if you put it in the context. Ultimately, I found out that people are not economists. A lot of you might have known that already before getting a master's degree, but no, I'm slow from Estonia. But even though I found out about these different cognitive biases we have, the truth is there is no universal truth in social sciences. And if it sounds like a universal truth, it's usually a truism, like everyone wants to be happy and we all want more pleasure and less pain. But if we talk about these really interesting findings of really small prices on price tags and so on, these findings are almost always context dependent. So I thought to myself, we just need more specific research. You see, I was still enthusiastic and slightly naive. So I went on to work in a research company, TNS, and it was the year 2011 when I was choosing my future path. So neuromarketing, that was the most sexy keyword at that time. And I became the first neuromarketing researcher in the Baltics. There are a lot of brilliant case studies from all over the world. I encourage you to look up Sony Bravia ad with bouncing balls in San Francisco. The frog on the 17th second of that ad is the decisive detail of that particular commercial that made this ad so successful. And together with my colleagues, we wanted to search for these effective details in communication so that we could predict consumer behavior. By this time, my own mother thought that I'm evil. And I guess that's a common misconception that companies and consumer behavior experts like myself, using fancy equipment, we put our fingers into people's heads and we make them buy things they don't need. Well, firstly, just let me tell you that if we can manipulate people into buying more chocolate, then perhaps we could also manipulate them into drinking less alcohol, exercising more, giving more to charity. One of my favorite case studies in neuromarketing is a commercial about drinking less. We found out that threatening people with death is not a way to go. It's very unbelievable for the viewer, so in fact it has the opposite effect of what we want to claim. But coming back to this evil, let them eat more chocolate condition, even when we try to make people do what we want them to do, all of our decisions, they depend on so many small things, so many details, that it's very difficult as marketeers and researchers to control all of them. Let me tell you about one of my failures as a researcher. Last spring, we went and did some very interesting research at a major supermarket. We had heard that the scent of caramel will make people buy more chocolate. So, me being evil again, we went on to the chocolate aisles. We glued the ribbons of caramel-scented ribbons on the shelves, and with our test periods and control periods, test shops, we did find significant results, statistically significant results. However, we were skeptical, so we went on and repeated the same experiment 2 months later. We tried to control for every variable, but we didn't get statistically significant results. So just to reassure you, we are not in your heads, and we cannot control every detail. So from physics to economics, to marketing, to cognitive science, and to neuromarketing research, what could be the next step? How could I learn more about human behavior, consumer behavior? Then I had a baby. Last summer, waiting for my September due date, I had a lot of time to relax. And just like in the beginning of my professional career, I thought I have to be prepared. I have to study, I have to learn. I went to the lectures. Every night I played the same lullaby to my unborn baby. I'd learned that if you play the same lullaby every day when you're pregnant, and then the child is born, when you play the same song again, then it will calm him. He will fall asleep. So probably the parents in the audience are now laughing at me, and now he's 9 months old. I look at him, he looks like me, he is half me. I've witnessed and influenced almost every minute of his existence. But yet I know so little about him, and I know so little of my influence on his future. So you see, as managers and as parents, we hugely overestimate our own role. And I don't think I'm exaggerating too much when I say we think of our influence as if it would be gravity, a constant. But in fact, we are just rolling the dice and we are gambling. So we have this illusion of control, and it's more evident when we think about positive outcomes. So take an annual report of a company with a successful year, and you'll see the CEO writing, "We made very good decisions this year. We launched excellent products, and because of our efforts, the year was so successful." But if you read another report of an unsuccessful year, it will say something like, "The economic environment wasn't as beneficial. The competition was getting tighter and tighter." So despite our efforts, the outcome wasn't as positive. So basically we are rolling the dice, and if we get a 6, we say, "I told you so, I knew it. I wanted to throw a 6 and I got it." But you didn't know it. And what I've realized looking around, seeing the managers saying they knew that the product will be a success, the ad would be a success, seeing parents telling me they know what are the best parenting techniques, they know why their children sleep through the night. I would encourage people to be more open to saying, "I don't know. I don't know why my baby is crying. He can't talk, so I'm just guessing. And I don't know why consumers are not jumping to grab the product that I've so cleverly engineered them to buy." I have to still note that I'm a big fan of knowledge and research. Knowledge tells us that a dice throw and a coin toss have different probabilities. And research can tell us whether the dice is fair. Perhaps in some cases, it's better to bet on one. But ultimately, I'm saying that even if we know the input, we don't know the outcome. Allegedly, Einstein said that insanity is expecting different results from the same action. But when you think about different parenting techniques, working on different children, when you think about the same marketing campaign yielding different results, and various examples throughout our lives, most of our examples, I would say that in parenthood and in business and in life, it's insanity to expect the same outcomes. So please, let's say we don't know and be open to that. Thank you.